Yo, everybody, it's TLDR episode number 14. We have sports going crazy as usual. NBA playoffs is down to the last two conference finals. Hockey is down to the last Stanley Cup Final. Baseball is 1 week away from the play beginning. Football is full go. We're about to be in week 3 of that. Right off the club, I want to shout out Bryson DeChambeau on his first ever major tournament win. It's not like I told you so on episode 1, or maybe I did. And that is what we would call a TLDR bump, everybody.
Boom.
We're starting to give those out. They're coming fast, coming off the shelves. Tyler had a crazy Saturday this weekend. First off, he fell out of a golf cart. And right after that, he ended up breaking his pitching wedge out of pure anger, which we've never seen before out of this guy. To top it all off, he drank a nice, meaty, barrel-aged beer at the end of the night that James force-fed to him. Tyler, explain that to us in your words.
Wow, that was quite your twist on it, Eric. Yes, I did follow the golf cart, but it was 100% James's fault.
That is not true.
It was because I was leaning over to grab a ball that we're going to pick up. I leaned over, I missed the ball, and then James decided for some reason to speed up and then turn very quickly as I was hanging off the edge of the golf cart. And momentum will tell you that will take my ass out of the golf cart. So, I landed right on my ass. My toe still kind of hurts a few days later, so that's good.
Your core wasn't activated, bro.
Yeah, that's what I did wrong. My bad. And then, I did break my pitching wedge a few holes earlier. Was not having a good day. Probably had like 4 holes in a row where I was the best I shot was a triple bogey. So it was a rough day, and I just had a really bad chip shot from 20 yards out, and I slammed my pitching wedge, and it snapped in half. But hey, good news is after that I played bogey golf, so I played a lot better, and the pitching wedge I got today, I love a lot, and I'm very excited to use it for tomorrow's matchup with you guys.
What did you get?
A pitching wedge.
What kind of wedge did you get?
It was a used one I just found. So $30.
Yep.
Ka-ching.
Yeah, I once threw my wedge on a course. I think it was like the 12th hole, and then I got to 3 holes later and realized I didn't have my wedge, and then it was just gone. So I played the rest of the round without it. It's not like I was going to play good anyways. But James, I didn't see any silverware drawers get ripped out of a household this Sunday. The Niners won. How was your Sunday?
It was good. I mean, I spent pretty much Saturday and the weekend with you guys anyway. So it was a lot of fun. The Niners won. A lot of big injuries. I'm a little concerned on the defensive end. But, it's Niners won, man. It's a good day. It's a good day.
Yeah. I don't know if I agree, but yeah. Tradon, your boy won the MVP, not Connor McDavid, the other good guy on that team, Leon. But how you doing?
Dude, I'm doing good. We had Leon win 3 awards this year. We'll be getting into that. We'll be getting into a little bit of the awards as my kind of ending discussion. So, but yeah, man, I'm doing good. It's been fun.
Wait, that's the MVP he won, right? Is that the Hart Trophy?
Yeah, he won the Hart.
Yeah, good.
He won.
Back check.
He won the what do you call it? I forget it. We'll get into it.
Lock it in, Tradon. Let's go.
Yep. So, as you can see, Tradon isn't locked in, but when we return, Tradon will be locked in for the NHL Stanley Cup analysis and awards.
Yes, sir.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are about to shoot the shit on this 1-1 tied series of the Stanley Cup Final plus the NHL Awards. Who better to lead us off with it than Tradon, the hockey guy?
Yes, sir. Well, what a Stanley Cup Final. I mean, so far. I think we expected Tampa Bay to be kind of their speed. It was kind of absent in the first couple periods of the first game, but I didn't expect the Stars to be as exciting as they are. I mean, they were extremely exciting in the last 2 games, especially yesterday towards the end. But let's get into each game. We have, the series is tied 1-1. Game 1 saw the Stars beat the Bolts 4-1. The first 40 minutes, I mean, you guys saw the first 40 minutes was all Dallas. James, I mean, this is your team. What? I mean, was something in their Wheaties, or what the hell was going on in that first 40 minutes?
I honestly just think that the Lightning were tired, man. I mean, the Stars had 4 days of rest prior to that, and then the Lightning just got done playing maybe 2 days before that, something like that. The Lightning looked slow. The Stars did not, and I think it's mostly the fact that the Lightning had to kind of change how they play versus got off playing an Islanders team that kind of sat back and waited for things to come to them and played defensive hockey. When the Stars come at you, they're coming at you. They're physical, and not to say that the Islanders weren't physical. It's just the fact that they kind of sat back, but the Stars attack you. And it took a while for Tampa Bay to figure it out. I wish it took longer, but they figured it out in 2 periods, which kind of scares me because then you look at the first period of game number 2 and shit, they were up 3-0. That was scary.
Yeah, it was completely different. That third period was just domination by Tampa Bay. But, any coach will tell you, oh, now you're going to decide to start playing? It's a little late for that. You're already down 3-0, or 3-1. It's just a little too late. Tyler, did you catch any of that game 1? What do you think? What did you think of the game?
Yeah, game 1 I didn't catch much live, but I did watch the highlights. Yeah, you're right. Dallas came out. They looked fresh, ready to go. Lightning looked a little surprised, I would say, by how good the Stars team was. Obviously, game 1 of Stanley Cup Final. I don't know what more motivation you need to come out firing, and they never really recovered after that. But obviously, game 2 they rebounded, came back with 3 goals in the first period. So I kind of see how that's going to be this series. It's going to be very back and forth. Both teams are going to go at it. I think it's going to be a great Stanley Cup to watch. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the series.
Yeah, the series is you see it in games. I mean, there's always a debate whether you can bring momentum from game to game, and I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, at least later on, especially later on, because you're seeing momentum shifts within games from period over period, minute over minute, and it just makes for some amazing hockey. There's something that really bothers me, especially with the first game, and actually you saw it in the second game, especially with Dallas, is that their scoring is coming from Hanley, Oleksiak, and Kiviranta. The only point for Big Dog first game was Radulov, getting assist on the second goal. Tyler Seguin has been still muted, this whole playoffs, it feels like. Eric, are you concerned about the Stars' ability to win a series if their big dogs can't fucking put up their...
No, because they got that D. And when I'm talking D, I'm talking depth. No homo. Actually,
thanks for clarifying that.
Maybe we should cut that out, Tyler, that we shouldn't be saying that word on here during these times. But anyways, they got that D. And when I say that, I mean they got the depth. The whole time they've been in the bubble, Seguin has been a little mouse, hasn't done shit for him. And all these other guys are stepping up, scoring goals. And that's what you need in the playoffs to win, especially in hockey. Guys like Heiskanen, Oleksiak, Gurianov, Hintz, Foxa, Dickinson, Klingberg, who outplayed Hedman in game 1 straight in hot take.
Yeah.
Ranta. They got a dude named Pavelski. I think is probably the best finisher in the league. He has been one of the best finishers in the league, especially in the playoffs when it really matters. But they got all these guys that are taking up the slack for the big dogs like Ben, Seguin, Radulov. Except I'd say Ben and Radulov have done their job. They need to step it up more if they want to win the cup. Seguin really needs to get it going. I think we talk about this guy every podcast, how he just hasn't really done much. He was kind of creating chances last night, but it was too late.
Yeah. I mean, it worries me when you pay so much money for these big guys to put up points and they're not. It doesn't look good for Seguin, but I mean, what I have to give him is he is solid 5-on-5. His Corsi stats are solid. He's not putting up a lot of shots on net, but he's making up for it defensively. Like he's not leaking chances, which you can't put up chances for, then you got to prevent chances against, and let Joe Pavelski of all guys just completely dominate the headlines. I mean, Joe Pavelski, I don't know if I don't know about you guys, but Joe Pavelski seems like he's all over the ice, whether he's in the penalty box or whether he's scoring goals. What do you got, James, about this guy?
Okay, so another way you could look at this, a different perspective, is that top line isn't producing right now, so everybody else is stepping up because of that. So if and when that top line starts producing again, the Dallas Stars are going to be a scary team to mess with.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm kind of just waiting for it to happen because eventually those types of guys just kind of break out. So I think the Bolts will have their hands full, even more so if that's the case. But shifting over to the Bolts, I mean, I'm if looking at the last.
Wait, one last thing. Can I interrupt you? My bad. We got to mention that guy, Tradon, dude.
Oh, we'll get there. He was a bigger part of game 2. But we're saving time for him. Let me
Okay.
Because the last 20 minutes, I mean, Tampa is almost like you flipped the switch and Tampa was flying. I mean, out shooting the Stars 22-2, a 43-3 advantage in shot attempts, just absolutely dominated the third period. And then here he is, Anton Dobby Hudobin came a hero, stopping all of the shots in the third. I mean, Tyler, this guy takes over for Ben Bishop early on in the quarterfinals, and now he sits 9-0 with a 93% save percentage in the past 9 games. That's before yesterday's game, of course, mind you. But in the third period, he has a 96 save percentage. I mean, I know we've been kind of pumping the tires of Miro Heiskanen, but do you think that Hudobin is kind of stealing the Conn Smythe from him right under his feet?
100%. I mean, how many times do you see in the playoffs, the goalie steps up and is shut down. There's a brick wall in the net and wills his team to win Stanley Cup. I can think of one a few years ago, right over there over my right shoulder, Jonathan Quick. I mean, probably one of the best goalie performances we've seen in recent years. I think Hudobin right now is playing right up to that level. If he comes in and steps up and can put in 3 more wins for this Dallas Stars team, I think his name's going to be on that Conn Smythe 100%.
You think if and when he does win that, they should give him like that rotten wool sock, like in Harry Potter, when it frees Dobby, when he's not like a slave anymore. Like they should have it like in the joke.
Good reference. Well, that brings us to game 2. I mean, Kylie and I, we watched this game together, and it started with the Bolts onside. It's almost like the period 3, came back from game 1 and they pound the Stars into the ground that first period. Now, what worried me prior to, and I had said it to her, I said the Bolts can't freaking score on the power play. Sure enough, on their second power play, they score back-to-back power play goals. So obviously they kind of broke the seal on that. What worries me with the Dallas Stars coming from game 1 and game 2 is discipline. It seems like they're in the box a lot for among many different types of penalties. James, is discipline going to be a huge factor here for the Dallas Stars?
Oh, dude, yeah, definitely. I mean, before this game, I would say no because, like you mentioned, the Bolts couldn't score on the power play, but they figured it out. So now it's just like the Dallas Stars play physical hockey, and I say that over and over and over again. But you got to find that fine line between too physical, and then just like playing your style of hockey, and that's going to be tough. If they can find the fine line, when stuff will start. But man, the fact that the Bolts finally figured out their power play, that's not a good sign for the Stars.
Not. Interesting that you say, you talk about their physical play because we saw Kiviranta take runs at Braden Point in game 1. We saw Kucherov get completely manhandled yesterday.
Okay, hold up. I have a lot of respect for that guy. He got destroyed, and I thought he was going to not get up or just leave the game entirely multiple times, but he just came back and he played really well after coming back.
Guys,
that guy is insane. He has a lot of my respect.
My issue with Kucherov prior to yesterday was whenever he starts to get frustrated, he shows it. He starts to take stupid penalties. He acts kind of pouty. And guys, Kucherov is absolutely getting lit up. He goes to the back to wipe off some paint on his visor from the boards after he got slammed in face first. Comes back, records 3 assists or 2 at least assists to break the season playoff record in Bolts history that was set by Brad Richards in 2004 at 28 points. And we still have at least 3 games to go. And that's assuming that it doesn't go to game 7 or game 6. So, I mean, I agree with you, James. You have to give that guy credit to. I don't think he let his spirits break, and he actually threw it right back in the faces of the Stars. And to me, it hurts a lot more on the scoreboard than it does, getting hit in the boards. That's just how it goes. I will say this. After a dominant first period, I think that the Stars really were hanging on. I mean, Tyler, did you see any of the second game? I mean, it looked like a completely different game later on.
Yeah, absolutely. I caught most of it. All Tampa Bay Lightning, really the first 2 periods. Dallas Stars came in the third, made it interesting. But I mean, it's got to love this hockey. It's just what it is. It's physical. It's going to be close. Even when you think Tampa Bay is going to run away with it after the first period, their sticks go quiet and they can't seem to score anymore. Stars step up. That's what you love about hockey games. Like you mentioned earlier, there's so many ebbs and flows. There's so many momentum changers. Even a 3-goal lead in the playoffs isn't necessarily a guaranteed safety net.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Unless you get a TLDR bump like mid-game,
that
still could be sketchy.
Yeah.
Bouncing off one last point, Eric, you brought up the point that the defense on the Stars were actually outplayed Hedman on game 1. I 100% agree. I'm actually starting to be in the camp that it's Hedman's Conn Smythe to lose if the Tampa Bay Lightning win, but he's not going to win it if he plays like he did game 1. So he definitely turned it around last game. I mean, Hedman is just a complete powerhouse on the back end. But to finish up the discussion, we may or may not be talking about a winner next week. I mean, if it goes to game 7, they're playing on Wednesday. So I mean, there's a higher chance that we'll be talking about the winner, next week, but we might be talking about game 7, which I'm pretty excited for. So I'm going to go around the table and ask, who do you got, Tyler?
All right. This is a really tough one. I've gone against the Stars all playoff long. I'm going to continue that trend. Lightning in 7.
Lightning in 7. Okay. James?
Stars 6.
Stars in 6. And Eric?
Stars 7.
Stars 7. Well, I like that you guys are we're expecting a long series, and I'm no exception. I have Tampa Bay in 7, but it's honestly a coin flip. It's going to be such a great next 5 games. Very excited. But so that wraps up the series. We're going to talk a little bit about the awards. So the major awards, I actually saw how the major awards compared to our predictions. Starting with the Hart Trophy winner, Leon Draisaitl, my boy. We were right about that, boys. We predicted he was going to win. I think that was kind of expected. The trophy I was trying to say he won was the Ted Lindsay. That one is basically is voted on by the players as the best player in the league by your peers. So his peers also thinks he's the best player in the league this year, which I think that honestly is a bigger trophy in some respect, because that's your own competition that's telling you, hey, you're the best player in our league. So I think that was pretty special for him to win that one. The Norris went to Roman Josi, boys. We thought it was going to be John Carlson. Do we have a on that? Are we really? I think it could have gone to any of the 3. It was Hedman, Roman Josi, or John Carlson. Are we surprised by this, or was it kind of a coin flip for all of us?
Yeah, I think that was the closest voting of all the awards, I believe, at least I've seen, in terms of first place, second place votes and total votes. So yeah, for me it was a coin flip. Yeah, that's all I got.
I mean, you think And a lot of it's based off the season mainly, right? Because, like, obviously if it were to be now, like, you'd think Hedman.
Hedman 100%.
He's in the damn cup final and carried his team there.
Right.
But the
thing is, these trophies don't count the playoffs, which it's tough for those players.
Why an Oilers player won the MVP, dude?
Well, sorry? Yeah, exactly.
Keep going.
Yeah, exactly. The Vezina trophy went to Connor Hellebuck. Guys, to me, this was like a slam dunk. I mean, he was the only thing keeping the puck out of the net for the Jets this year. That was an alley-oop, slam dunk, LeBron James, boom, 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 done. The Calder trophy was a little bit surprising. We had Hughes winning, but Cale Makar won. This is another coin flip for me. I think it could have went to either one of them. I think, to Eric's point on the Vezina, on the Norris, I think that Hughes played much better in the playoffs than he did in the regular season, but I think it could have went to either one. What do you guys think?
Totally agree with you.
Eric, yeah.
I agree. Also, dude, why does NHL have to call these trophies like Vezina, Norris? No one knows what it means. I feel like I get that's like named after someone, and that's all good. I mean, baseball does it too, but they still call it MVP, Rookie of the Year. It just makes it because I'm a big hockey guy. I follow hockey, but it's like I can't remember which one's which every time.
No,
I always have to look it up.
No clue.
No idea.
I should have started by saying which one's which. Norris was the best defense.
Yeah.
And Calder was Selke. This one is the most confusing for many. The Selke trophy went to the best defensive forward in the league. It was so confusing that even James asked me, he's like, why are we voting on a centerman for this when
it's your most important player,
defensive forward, which weirdly enough is actually turning into the player who has a great season defensively, but also has a shit ton of points, which I think is kind of stupid. Because if we were actually going by the best defensive forward, I think that Patrice Bergeron would be winning it every year. I mean, that's the reality of it. But
Kopitar.
Sean, well, and he's another candidate that was always up there as well. Sean Couturier won this year, and that's who you guys voted on. I did not vote for him, but you guys did. So I guess it was no shock there. I'm an idiot. You guys are right.
Who did you vote for?
I voted for Patrice Bergeron because in my mind, he's just a perennial defensive forward.
Would you call it like most wanted player on the ice? Like that's what I would call Bergeron. That's probably what I'd call Kopitar.
Yeah. But it seems like the Selke winner has to go above and beyond offensively while also keeping his defensive game intact, and it just doesn't make sense to me. Because if we're really going to the crux of what that award is, it should be going to the best defensive forward, which I'm sorry is Patrice Bergeron or Kopitar every single freaking year. This one pissed me off the most. The Jack Adams went to Bruce Cassidy, and we had John Tortorella winning. Here's my rant right now. What the fuck? Bruce Cassidy is given a fantastic team on a silver platter, said, hey, please take this team to the playoffs. Guys, I could coach that team to the fucking playoffs. They have everybody. They have no issues. But John Tortorella loses Panarin. He loses Bobrovsky.
Duchesne.
He loses a shit ton of players. He has Seth Jones, who's an up-and-coming, for surely going to be a win of Vezina in his life. But he doesn't really have much more than that, and he takes him to the Stanley Cup playoffs, and he almost moves on against Tampa Bay again. So am I wrong in thinking that's absolute bullshit or what? I mean, Eric, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I think it should have gone to Tortorella. Just kind of going back to what you're saying with the Selke, like how Bergeron would always be getting it. It's like it should be the coach that has like the team that everyone counts out from the beginning of the season, which was the Blue Jackets. And the coach that takes a team like that and brings them to the playoffs and almost, they showed signs of they dominated the Leafs in that Game 5. They went into a few overtime games with Tampa that could have been different. Like they could have been in a deeper series with Tampa, but Tortorella probably should have got it because he had a team of guys that all the other guys left, and it was the Thunder of basketball this year. Just how everyone counted them out, and they were in the playoffs. Could have gone deeper.
Right, Tyler, James, you guys have anything to say about this award or any of the other awards before I move on to my last bit of information?
For this award, I think it's just very subjective, man. You bring it back to like an MVP for like basketball or for baseball or something, and it's just like, is it really the best person in the league, or is it the best person on a team, or is it the best person on a winning team? And those are the questions you have to ask, and that's what makes it super subjective, which is why it's kind of like a coin flip too for this. Because if you're just looking at records, it's the team that has the best record should have the coach of the year.
Sure.
But it's not.
Tyler?
My favorite NHL award, the Lady Byng Trophy, goes to the nicest guy in hockey.
As the
We're talking about that one.
biggest pansy ass. No.
Who won
Nice guy award. Nice guy award.
Yeah, the nice guy award.
Yeah, of course, you'd like that one.
Who won the nice guy award?
I have
No
to
one
double
knows.
check.
No one
They
cares.
don't care about that one.
I think Draisaitl, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't Draisaitl. It was. Let me find out in just a second.
Kopitar won it one year, but I think he won the Selke.
It was
as well.
probably Kachuk, right?
No,
Nate
it was,
McKinnon.
I mean, he deserves something.
Yeah,
He deserves
it was
something.
Kachuk.
He deserves
It's
something.
kind of the shittiest one to win. Well,
It
with
wasn't
that one,
Lucic?
guys. No, God, no. Imagine that. I just want to quickly update everyone. We did get some information about the next season, so I'm just going to kind of spit that out before I kind of forget it. The NHL is still planning for a full 82-game season with the usual 4-round best-of-7 playoff series. Gary Bettman anticipates playing that full season, but how and when is something that remains to be seen. We don't have all the information on that, and they don't to make that decision. And anything right now would be speculation, but the goal is to get back as close to normalcy as possible, which I think we all could really use right now. The NHL has initially committed December 1. Seems like probably going to be pushed into later December, if not January. And in my opinion, that's probably better. Let these guys get out of the bubble, be with their families through the holidays, get through the holidays, and maybe restart then. Although Gary's preference would be to stay out of the summer as much as possible. Fans typically like watching the hockey in the fall, winter, and spring. So having it later it kind of seems like fans tune out, but I don't know how much. And they think they had to do it this the way they did this year, obviously. But they're looking at any solutions. So the biggest question mark is what are they going to do with the Winter Classic on January 1st? My guess is it's probably not going to go through if they can't get enough any fans in there. So they'll have to reschedule that. But that's kind of where we're at. There's no additional information, but I will keep everybody updated when we do get more. But guys, we are a week away from ending hockey. I mean, hockey's done in a week, in a day maybe, and I'm sad about it.
Wow, Tradon. Way to end on that
man.
note. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I mean, of course, at TLDR, we always talk about seasons ahead of seasons while seasons are going on. But when we return, James is going to keep continuing on with his waiver wire guys that you may want to pick up in your league if you're struggling. I'm not. I'm 2-0 in our league, actually. Matt Rivera, good shout out. I'm 2-0, doing well. James, what are you?
I'm in last.
He's in last.
Are you 0-2? Okay.
Yeah.
Traden is 0-2, I believe.
Yeah.
And Tyler,
2-0, baby.
2-0.
2-0.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So, and when Alex comes back on next episode, he'll tell you his record. I don't know what
He's
his record
also
is.
0-2.
Oh shit, he's 0-2 as well. Yeah. So all those middle schoolers and everyone that said me and Tyler were idiots, like, who the fuck is this Tyler guy? What are you smoking? 2-0. But when we return, James is going to let you know why there's certain guys you can pick up to pick your season back up for you. And we're back, everybody. And James is going to continue on with the waiver wire.
Are we sure we should be listening to the guy that's 0-2?
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Seems
first
pretty
and foremost,
suspicious.
I just got wrecked by injuries this year, which I'm going to talk about first. So this last week, guys, it was brutal for NFL teams and fantasy owners alike. There was injuries that changed the landscape of not just the fantasy seasons, but also for NFL teams as a whole as well. Big names here. Christian McCaffrey's out 4 to 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. Saquon Barkley, that's an ACL tear. He's out for the year. That's tough. That's picks 1 and 2 on pretty much everybody's board. Cortland Sutton, one of my main guys, one of my draft crushes, towards ACL as well, out for the season. Raheem Mostert for the Niners, MCL sprain. So these are some big name guys that, honestly, if you have them, listen to this episode, listen to this segment, because you're going to need some help. I was going to go over some updates to for fantasy football. But, Eric just did that last. So we're going to move on to quarterbacks here. And we're going to start with Ryan Tannehill from Tennessee. He's currently 34.5% owned. In week 2, he had 26.7 points. Overall, he has 46.1 points. He is currently the ninth highest fantasy quarterback. He's ahead of Lamar Jackson. Against the Jags, he was 18 for 24, had 239 yards and 4 touchdowns. A lot of people typically avoided anybody on the Titans other than Derrick Henry because we all thought that they were going to be a run-heavy offense. But, man, we were wrong. It's almost split down the middle right now. They have 68 pass attempts through 2 games, which is about 55% of their offensive snaps. Part of this is the emergence of really good weapons on the offensive end. Corey Davis is finally healthy. He was a former number 5 overall pick in 2017, so a lot of potential, but Jonathan Smith is looking really good. A.J. Brown isn't healthy right now, but when he is, he's a weapon, and we saw it last year. So the biggest question that people ask is, Tannehill's been in the league since 2012. Why are we only hearing about him now? And the reason being, he no longer has Adam Gase as his coach. Adam Gase is a terrible coach. He kills careers. Don't ever have him as your coach. If you're on the Jets right now, leave the Jets. Next up, Ryan Tannehill plays the Vikings. And this is a great matchup for any quarterback because the Vikings defense look good on paper. But they've given up 578 passing yards and 5 passing touchdowns so far this season. And also, they lost their star linebacker, Anthony Barr, to torn pec, so he's out for the season as well. Tyler, you have a pretty solid team that doesn't have any real weaknesses anywhere, so you've kind of just become the QB guy for this segment. Oh, yeah. What do you think about Tannehill as a waiver wire pick for week 3? And does he finish the season as a top 10 fantasy QB?
I think Tannehill is a great addition to your team, give you some quarterback depth. I think I surprised a lot of people. I think maybe some people thought last year was just kind of a one-season, one-hit wonder type of deal. He was the comeback player of the year last year. I think he's continuing that hot streak. For 9 consecutive regular season games, he's scored multiple passing scores for fantasy. So it seems like whatever he's got going on in Tennessee, he's doing pretty well there. So for me, I feel like this is a guy that you can rely on, and he can be dependable. Like you said, like you mentioned, he's the 9th ranked quarterback right now in fantasy. If he keeps this up, I don't see why he can't finish in the top 10.
A couple other notable QBs here is my pick from last week is Gardner Minshew. He's owned in only 19.5% of the league, so that's a slight uptick from last week. But he scored 23.46 points last week. He's currently the number 11th ranked QB. And Joe Burrow. He's owned in 45.1. He scored 24 points last week. He's a 12th overall QB. Joe Burrow right now, if you guys there's him, he looks good. If he had an offensive line, he'd be really, really great. But he doesn't, so he's rushed and it sucks. Next up, moving to running back, we got Joshua Kelly from the Chargers. He's owned in 27.9% of leagues. In week 2, he had 13.3 points. Overall, he has 25.3. Against Kansas City, and mind you, this was a very close game, he had 23 carries for 64 yards and 2 receptions for 49 yards. Joshua Kelly out-touched Austin Eckler 25-20. And Austin Eckler is supposed to be the number 1 running back on this team, but right now it's not looking like it. It's looking like running back 1A and 1B. They're going to split that backfield. Snap count-wise, Joshua Kelly was only on the field for 43 snaps, while Austin Eckler was on the field for 47. So just 4 more snaps. Looking up to next week, we got the Panthers. The Panthers don't look like a great defense. They gave up 127 rush yards per game right now. So that combo of Joshua Kelly and I like to tear up this defense. Eric, other than Alvin Kamara, you don't really have much depth at the running back position. What do you think about adding Joshua Kelly?
Well, I won't add him myself, but I'll tell you why you should add him. Because first off, I do remember hearing his name a fuck ton of times during that game against the Chiefs. And he had a team-high 23 carries that game, 64 yards, 2 out of 3 passes caught for 49 yards. He was racking up points. And kind of going off what you said, the Chargers are showing us now they got kind of a 1A, 1B running back format. It's going to be like Eckler. When Eckler gets tired, it's going to be Kelly. Kelly seems like he's getting the job done for him. I wouldn't pick him up on my squad because I picked up who did I pick up? Robinson. You told me to pick up Robinson from the Jags in week 1, and I did. Or maybe that's another league, actually. Fuck. Maybe I will pick up in our league. I mean, I'm 2-0, so I'm not really worried about it yet. But he is a good pickup. He's going to get a lot of reps, and the more the merrier if you have him in fantasy.
A couple of other notable running backs to look out for is Dion Lewis from the Giants. He's owned in 0.9% of leagues. He had 15.6 points last week. That's because Saquon Barkley went out. He's not going to be the number one guy. Breaking news here as of this morning. Devontae Freeman, used to be with the Falcons, just signed with the Giants. So he's going to be the number one guy for the Giants if he passes the COVID testing, which I think he will. And then Jerick McKinnon from San Francisco is owned in 19.1% of leagues. He's the 9th overall running back right now, which is kind of surprising because he's played in – I think he's had 20 snaps on the season, but he's making really good work of those snaps. Mostert's out. Tevin Coleman's out. Jerick McKinnon is next man up in a San Francisco team that runs the ball often. If he's open on your waiver wires, pick him up. Moving on to wide receiver here, we got Russell Gage from the Falcons. He's 20% of leagues. In week 2, he had 16.6 points. Overall, he has 37 points. That's 11th highest out of all wide receivers. He has more points than Julio Jones, Juju, Amari Cooper. Guys that were drafted in first 3 rounds, and he's beaten them. Against the Cowboys, he had 6 receptions with 9 targets, 46 yards, and a touchdown. He has the second most targets in week 2, and he has the second overall most targets for the season for the Falcons. The Falcons have a lot of mouths to feed, but Matt Ryan shows that he's up for it. This Falcons defense sucks. They're going to give up a lot of points. They're going to be in a lot of negative game scripts. He's going to have to throw the ball a lot. The Falcons are second in the league in passing yards with 350 passing yards per game. I know it's week 2, but it's a small sample size, but that's a lot of yards per game. Snap count-wise, you have Gage with 62 snaps. Calvin Ridley had 63 snaps. And right now, it's Gage is on the field just as much as almost Matt. Crazy. Russell Gage is 3rd on the depth chart, but I don't think that matters anymore. Matt Ryan can sling the ball anywhere. He doesn't care. If you're open, you're going to get the ball. Next up, he has Chicago. They're going to be hard. That's a decent defense, but they're going to be hard-pressed to cover 3 elite wide receiver options. Tradon, once again, T.Y. Hilton didn't do much for you. When you were watching football on Sunday, I noticed you were trying to make a trade for pretty much anybody in exchange for him. What are your thoughts on Russell Gage?
Oh, I'll give you my thoughts on T.Y. Hilton. No. No, I mean, yeah, week 2 caught 6 and 9. His latter part of the season last year, he was already starting to show signs of potential, and he's actually kind of just continued that trend, which is always good to see. He was getting, 8 targets a game towards the end of the last season and still getting targeted even after the return of Calvin Ridley. He's been targeted 21 times over the last 2 weeks and caught 15 for 160 and his TD. He has a lot of flex opportunity. If you see one of your wideouts fall or suck like T.Y. Hilton. He competes with Ridley and Julio Jones, which is my main concern. But like you said, it seems like Matt Ryan is willing to sling to anybody. I have him on watch right now. I do worry about the Bears this week. The Bears didn't let the Giants wideout or a Giants wideout allow more than 50 yards. So they have some stopping power, which is worrisome. But I mean, at the end of the day, they can't guard all 3 of them. So I think that I'm with you. I think I'm going to keep him on watch, and I might make a pickup if he's available for sure.
A couple other notable wide receivers here is Corey Davis from Tennessee. Man, I'm all about Tennessee this segment. But he is owned at 35.6% of leagues, had 12 points last week. And Keelan Cole Sr. from Jacksonville. Jaguars actually look kind of good, guys. He's owned at 1.9% of leagues and had 17 points last week. Lastly, for tight end, we got Jonnu Smith. He is owned in 40.3% of leagues. In week 2, he had 24.4 points. That is a lot for a tight end. It's a lot for anybody that's a non-quarterback. But damn, for a tight end, that's insane. He has 38 overall points. He's the 2nd overall tight end in fantasy this year. Did anybody know his name before this? I didn't. Against the Jags, he had 4 receptions for 5 targets for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. He has the 2nd highest target share on the team. He's basically a wide receiver that blocks sometimes, if you guys watch the film. Earlier, I talked about Tannehill and how his emergence and how good he is, and Smith is one of his favorite targets. Snap count-wise, He was out there for 54 snaps, which is second to just Ryan Tannehill. He's out there more than anybody else. It's worth noting right now that A.J. Brown is out, so he's still going to get a lot of target share. A.J. Brown's going to be out week to week with a injuries, and those take a long time. Next up, just like Ryan Tannehill, because they're on the same team, they have the Vikings. They give a lot of pass yards. So this is initially for Alex, but Alex isn't here right now. So we're just going to go around the room here, and I'm going to see what you guys think. Tyler, let's start with you.
Yeah, this guy kind of came out of nowhere this season. I believe this is his 4th year in the league. Didn't really do much in his first 3, but he's coming out in the first 2 weeks looking pretty good. So there is a risk there where you're like, okay, is this just, he's had a couple good weeks. Is he worth picking up? I think if you have a guy on your bench that is worth dropping and you want to pick this guy up just to see if he can contribute more, I think it's worth it. Definitely got to keep in mind. You never know when guys are going to be breakout stars, and this could be a guy you can catch early. So yeah, for me personally, I think I would take a good look at this guy, find someone on your bench that hasn't been producing, and pick him up and see where he goes.
Eric?
I mean, keep talking about that's the guy who's throwing to him every game, and that guy currently has made the least mistakes. It's only been 2 weeks, but 6 touchdowns, 0 picks, and 488 yards for Tannehill. And Jonnu Smith's current stats, 8 receptions, 3 touchdowns, and 120 yards, and he's averaging 15 yards a catch. So, yeah, Tradon, you should pick this guy up since you're complaining about T.Y. Hilton. I mean, he's doing way better than him.
Dog. Wait. I got Darren Waller here, boys.
Darren Waller went off last night.
That guy's tired all day, and I will him with my sneaky pick. You'll hear. So for me, if you don't have Darren Waller, pick him up. But if you have Darren Waller, don't worry about it because you got Darren Waller. You know what I mean? No, but seriously, looking now, it looks like the roster percent has actually increased by 29.5%. So more than 50% of the leagues pick him up. So obviously, they must know James's day because everyone's way ahead of him. Unfortunately, no one in our league yet. But I mean, James, good pick because I think the whole league is kind of seeing it.
Thank you very much. All right, lastly for my segment here, guys, we're going to go around the room, and the guys are going to tell us what their favorite wire pickup of this week is. Tyler, start with you.
Myles Gaskin, running back of the Miami Dolphins. Who? I'll tell you who. The 24th ranked running back currently, averaging 12.4 points, owned in 19.9% of leagues. You're like, dude, why the hell would I draft some random no-name guy in the Miami Dolphins? If you're desperate for running back because there's been a fuck ton of running back injuries all season. So why not pick up a guy who's got off to a pretty good start? Obviously, he's sharing the ball with Matt Breida. But so far, they seem to be pretty even in terms of their contributions to that Miami offense. So this could be a guy worth looking at.
You're forgetting about Jordan Howard also back. But yeah,
also that guy.
Eric, you're next.
That guy. I'm going with who the fuck? McKinnon. That guy on the Niners. He's been looking good. I'll go with him. I don't need him though, but I'll go with him.
And then Tradon.
Okay. Everyone stay in their seats. To give some love to Kylie's cousin and her boyfriend up in the north, who are huge Raiders fans. If you're looking for a streamer quarterback, Derek fucking Carr threw for 282 yards for 3 touchdowns yesterday. Was looking very comfortable after a slow start. Look, and he was also targeting Darren Waller all day, so I got to give him props. Thank you very much for that. But guys, when I watched that game, I just wanted to see some kind of life out of the Raiders, offense, and he gave it. I mean, he looked pretty freaking solid. And I understand that Drew Brees was, but looked at his face, you could tell Drew Brees was just very uncomfortable with the whole situation. He was not feeling it. And Derek Carr was laughing, having a great time. And his, he was slinging the ball. The throws looked pretty nice. I mean, I'm not going to take him because I have Mahomes, but Mahomes obviously is going to have a bye week. And I think he's the kind of, quarterback that you might watch for kind of a streaming opportunity when they're facing a leaky defense. Because he finished 14th in all of QBs this week. which means, yeah, he's not starting most of the time, but when bye weeks come, it's time to put him on watch. And some leagues have like 2 QBs, that type of thing, so you could throw him in on there too. Derek Carr, I like what I see out of the Raiders, and I like what I saw at Derek Carr. Oh, and by the way, please keep throwing to Darren Hall.
Thank you, Tradon. One last thing. He brought up Drew Brees. I want to say one thing about Drew Brees, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I don't care. This is what I think. I think Drew Brees is washed after watching last night's game. This dude did not throw the ball more than 12 yards downfield. I don't know if he can anymore. Without Michael Thomas running a 5-yard slant and breaking free, Drew Brees has nothing.
He looked like Jared Goff of last year, and Jared Goff looks like Drew Brees now. It's like they switched bodies.
They switched, but yeah, man, That's crazy. But that's my segment, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. You just sparked me right there with that. That was insane. It's like that one movie, I think it's like with the witches where they switch fucking souls or something like that. That seems like what Drew Brees did.
You mean like Freaky Friday, dude?
Yeah. But yes, thank you, James. And when we come back, we're going to have Tyler cover 2 segments this week because Alex could not make it this week. So we're going to go first of those breaking damn news moments of the MLB, following up with the NBA playoffs, which are starting to get a little interesting when we return. Welcome back. And we are here to listen to Tyler tell us about the breaking damn news and of baseball. I actually have a breaking one, but I'll save it after Tyler goes over his damn moments.
Oh, okay. MLB boys, we're entering the final week of the regular season. Next week we'll be predicting some playoff matchups going on, but for now, there's still a lot to be decided. But talking about last week, starting out at number 5, one of the most 2020 moments of all time. A man, whoever he was, wearing a Boston jersey, snuck into Fenway Park during a Red Sox-Yankees game in the 8th inning of Sunday's game. Pretty crazy moment. Delayed the game for 8 whole minutes while they were trying to escort the man outside the stadium. He was somehow able to climb onto the center field camera platform. Don't know how, but if you know anything about Fenway Park, right behind the left field wall over the Green Monster, it's a busy street. There's bars. It's always a party down there. So somehow he was able to climb up there and be part of the game for a little bit. He was throwing things. He was yelling and throwing stuff onto the field. Looked like a hat or some kind of football he threw on the field. If you haven't looked at the video yet, check it out. It's pretty interesting. Obviously, he eventually was escorted away by Fenway Park security. But a pretty interesting moment, pretty 2020 if you ask me. Eric, I want to ask you a question. Since there's no fans at any sporting events really, unless you happen to get lucky and score one of those tickets for some of those football games or your backyard as part of the U.S. Open, what sporting event from 2020 would you most want to sneak into?
Yep, you already guessed it. Golf, the Masters in Augusta, Georgia this year. Well, it's every year it's in Georgia there, but that's where I would sneak into this year because I feel like golf now you're starting to see like minimal fans kind of around the course. It could be what you're saying, like their backyard is there or whatever, but yeah, I would that events are actually super fun to go to. You're day drinking the whole time. There's a bunch of hot women there as well. Like there's just a lot of pluses and positives out of it. You're out in the sun absorbing vitamins, so I would pick the Masters tournament this year.
Right on. All right, moving on to number 4. Justin Verlander, the Astros ace, has Tommy John surgery. So earlier this season, he sustained a forearm injury. He was working on rehabbing, hopefully to be back in time before the postseason began for the Astros. However, on Saturday, he threw a 75-pitch simulated game, and his symptoms worsened. They reevaluated it and decided it was best if he got Tommy John surgery. So we won't be seeing Verlander for a while. He's 37 years old. He won the Cy Young last year. For sure, a future Hall of Famer. One of the best pitchers of our generation. Tradon, a couple of questions I wanted to ask you about this news. One, how does it affect the Astros this season with their playoff run? And then 2, have we seen the last great season out of Justin Verlander?
Questions. To answer number 1, they're already 27. What is it? 27 now. I think their championship window has kind of been shuttered. I don't think they can honestly believe that their chances at another title are possible without Justin Verlander, unless they're cheating. Even if they're cheating, I guess. Even if they're cheating, they're still not going to do it. They will have to stay strong to even make the playoffs still. I mean, yeah, they're in it, but I think they're still going to have to like make sure that they win games. Like they're not in it yet, you know. They've dropped 12 of their last 18, and Verlander can't come and save the day like Superman. So I just don't see it. I just don't see that them being a threat. So I don't. To answer your second question, okay. After 48.8 thousand pitches in the season and 3,110 pitches in the postseason as a major, among many pitches that he otherwise threw in his life, it's kind of a miracle that he hasn't had this issue before. Verlander has a torn UCL. Obviously, he's undergoing Tommy John surgery. Now, I didn't know that the Tommy John underwear company named themselves after a surgery, but that's kind of weird. Whatever. It is what it is. At the
no
risk,
free ads.
Now, yeah, true. Now, at the risk of being muted and booted by 3 athletic trainers on the Zoom call, according to WebMD, in the final phase of rehab, patients can take up to 4 to 5 months to even toss a ball without a windup, 6 months before an easy windup, 7 months before they can even take the mound, and 9 months before they're actually in competition. Back in the day, this was a season-ending injury, but now it seems like 85% of patients who undergo the surgery are able to come back and play at their same, if not better. I think it's tough to say. It really depends on his rehab. Projections will have him at the league average when he returns, and there are a couple of cases of where guys have managed to come back and be as good, if not better, than they were. But I think it's tough. I'm really hoping for a speedy recovery. He's got a spot on the Angels roster at 2021-2022 season, and the Angels will be world champions if that's the case.
Wow, I don't agree with that last one, but
I love it.
Yeah, usually Tommy John, you're looking at more than a year from the time you get the surgery to the time you're pitching back in the Major League Baseball game. It's a long process, but it is a proven process. And like as you mentioned, you see a lot of pitchers do come back from that. However, a lot of them get this earlier on in their career, or midway through their career. Verlander, 37 years old, is probably approaching the last 2, 3, maybe 4 years if he's lucky, being able to pitch Major League Baseball. So for me, it's the age I'm more worried about than the surgery itself. As you mentioned, all those pitches that he's thrown in his career so far. I don't think we'll see another Cy Young type of season out of Verlander. I do think he will come back and still be a very solid pitcher because he's Justin Verlander. He's one of the best to ever do it. But yeah, I don't think we'll see another dominant type of Verlander season. And I agree. I think the Astros on pitching, other than Zach Greinke, really don't have a whole lot. And their offense has been somewhat consistent. They've had a lot of injuries. I don't see them going very far in the postseason this year. All right, moving on.
Clifton will love living in Anaheim, just saying.
All right, we'll see what happens.
We don't want them. We already got too many injuries.
Moving on to number 3. Josh Donaldson was ejected after hitting a home run. Pretty fucking crazy. Watch the video if you haven't yet. But here's the breakdown of what happened. During Thursday's game, Josh Donaldson, a member of the Minnesota Twins, were taking on the Chicago White Sox in a huge division deciding game matchup. Josh Donaldson hits a home run to give the Twins a 3-2 lead in the 6th inning. On the pitch prior to hitting that home run, Donaldson took a called strike that he felt was a little bit outside. Argued with the home plate umpire, but he was still able to be in the bat. Hits the home run. As he crosses home plate, he kicked dirt over the plate in front of umpire Dan Bellino. Dan Bellino decided to toss him after that. Donaldson went back to kick more dirt on the plate and have some choice words for Mr. Bellino. And the Twins ended up losing that game 4-3. So just to give you a couple of quotes from Josh Donaldson about the situation, when he was asked about how he handled it, this is what he said. He said, "I felt great about it. I think I nailed it, actually. I heard you had a lot of people texting you and saying they were embarrassed." He said, "Well, I'm not. This is my livelihood, and this is part of what makes me the player I am. And at the end of the day, if I have something on my chest, that's what it's going to be. And then he went on to say, if the umpire consistently isn't doing his job correctly, that's affecting our careers. That's affecting our success. At the end of the day, there is no reprimand, no accountability for the guys that are making the decision. As a matter of fact, they don't care. They don't care at all. They just want to get the game over with for the most part, and it's pretty sad because guys are making six figures a year and there's no accountability. So pretty strong words from Josh Donaldson and pretty strong actions from Josh Donaldson involving Major League umpires. So obviously this was a huge matchup, Twins and White Sox at the top of the AL Central Division. Josh Donaldson, one of their best bats in that lineup, gets tossed for, pretty much kind of, being himself, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. James, do you like what Josh Donaldson did, or do you hate it?
I really hate what, but I kind of like it at the same time. And I'll tell you why in a second. First of all, like Josh Donaldson, man, like have some respect. Like these guys are doing, this is their living. That's your living. You mentioned that earlier. Have some respect for the guy. They've been doing this for a long time. They're human too. Like they make mistakes and it's okay. You also make mistakes. You don't hit the ball every single time. It's okay. Unless you're Joe West, Angel Hernandez, give them the benefit of the doubt. Missed calls happen often in every part of every game of every sport. Look at it, you see it in football. Like the Saints missed out because of a missed call against the Rams. In basketball, there's calls all the time that are missed. It happens. That's life. That's sports. Why you got to treat him like shit, man? That's not nice. And I agree. Players should have a way to express their frustration, but he did that. He already argued with that umpire, and the manager had to come out and defuse the situation. He literally was just begging to be ejected when he came out there and threw dirt on home plate like that. What are you getting from this? You're hurting nobody but yourself and your team. They lost because of you. That's not okay, man. And it's like, if you think about it, it's like when you're like a kid, and you're like asking your parents if you can get a video game for your Xbox, and your parents say no, and they give you reasons why, but then you come back as a kid and you're like, well, fine, well, I'm never playing Xbox again. And it's like, what did it accomplish? It accomplished nothing. It really just hurt you more than it hurt anybody else. And that's your fault. Grow up. But on the flip side of this, I also kind of like it because he brought up a good point. He could have said it in a different way and had gone about it a different way, but he brought up the accountability process. I think there really should be a way for the umpires to have accountability checks. I think the league should routinely check up on umps calls and look at their accuracy and maybe like lessen the games if they had made too many bad calls versus the league average. If there's like a threshold, a percentage calls that need to get right, and if they dip under that, they get taken away. So the best umps get games, the umps get less games. I think they should be paid based on the amount of games that they call.
Yeah, it brings up an interesting point. I think one of the hardest things about calling balls and strikes is, yes, there is a, strike zone that's, at the player's chest, the player's knees, and then the edges of home plate. Of course, every umpire has a slightly different zone. Some guys, call it a little higher, a little more outside, but, so on and so forth. So it is a little subjective depending on the umpire, which makes it difficult for the players who are out there every single day and have to adjust to a different strike zone sometimes, night in and night out. So I understand the frustration completely. It also brings up the debate if whether, robot umps are coming, meaning there's, the strikeout zone you see on ESPN and stuff that's, on the screen. That's going to be, an umpire's going to be hooked into that. They'll get what the Astros do, basically. They'll get a buzz or whatever if it's a strike and nothing if it's a ball, and they'll just call it based on what the computer's telling them to do. Something like that in the future may be coming, maybe not. But it definitely brings up those kind of conversations. Very interesting. Personally, with what Donaldson did, I thought it was pretty funny overall, like just the general acts and what he said. It was interesting. However, just the timing of it, to me, I didn't like. He's one of the biggest bats in that lineup. You're trying to fight for that division crown right now with the White Sox. It's the last couple weeks of the season. I just feel like that could have been done at a different time, if at all. But yeah, James, I think you make some good points there. All right, moving on to number 2. Luke Voigt is running away with the home run lead. Currently, as we sit here on Tuesday with about 4 or 5 games remaining in the season, Luke Voigt has 21 home runs. He and the Yankees have been hitting home runs like nobody's business the last couple weeks. That's the TLDR bump right there. Jose Abreu is in second with 19, so he's creeped up a little bit the last couple days. Marcell Ozuna and Jose Ramirez have 17, and we have 6 players tied with 16 home runs apiece. So in the last few remaining days, a 2 home run lead isn't guaranteed, but it's looking pretty good. Like Luke Voigt might run away with this one. So I want to go around the horn here and ask you guys, do you think Luke Voigt wins it? And if not, who does? Eric, I'll start with you.
No, I don't think he wins it because I'm pretty sure Mike Trout is one of those 6 dudes with 16. Well, actually, I saw a week ago that Trout was leading it, but he already isn't anymore. But I still don't think Voigt's gonna lead it. I don't think 2 is enough of a cushion.
So you think Trout's going to hit 6 home runs in the last 5 games?
4 games, dude.
4 games, however many are left.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, if anyone could do it, it'd be Mike Trout, but we'll see what happens. Tradon, what do you think?
Yes, I think he's gonna run away with it. I mean, I think it's just a little too far ahead with 2 little games. And like you said, they're hitting bombs, they're hitting dingers. Let's keep it up. Yeah, I think he's gonna win it.
James, who do you got?
I might agree with Tradon. I think Luke Voigt wins it. We talk about momentum a lot on this podcast, especially with hockey, and that's what you're seeing here with Luke Voigt. Last time we talked about the home run race, he wasn't even mentioned, but here he is winning it by 2 home runs. And I mean, Jose Abreu was right there the entire time, but this guy's Luke Voigt's coming up out of nowhere, and I think he's going to keep crushing it for the next couple games, and he's going to win.
Yeah, I think just with the momentum, with how he's been swinging the bat, Jose Abreu's been solid all season, like you just mentioned. So I think that might come down the wire. If Jose Abreu hits 2 more before Voigt hits another one, I think that could happen. And we might go down to the last game of the season. That'd be super fun. Hopefully that happens. But I'm going to go with Luke Voigt taking the home run crown for 2020. All right, moving on to the final point. This is the most interesting thing to watch, I think, the last week of baseball, and that's the National League wildcard race. So the American League is looking pretty solid. It's more just about seeding. The only teams that have not clinched a spot in the American League are the Houston Astros and the Toronto Blue Jays. Or the Angels. But it looks like they'll probably be clinching those probably in the next couple of days. It's going to be a long shot for either the Seattle Mariners or the Angels to actually, sneak in there with a wild card spot. So in the American League, it's looking more like seeding. Just a real quick rundown: 1 through 8. From 1 to 8, we go Tampa Bay Rays, Oakland A's, Chicago White Sox, Minnesota Twins, New York Yankees, Houston Astros, Cleveland Indians, Toronto Blue Jays. I can see that pretty much staying the same. So the American League looks pretty set for the most part. It's a completely different story in the National League. Total chaos. You got 6 teams vying for 4 spots left. It's going to come down to the last few games. It's just absolutely wild, and I love it. So the only teams that have clinched a playoff spot in the National League are the Dodgers, Braves, Cubs, and Padres. So that kind of comes down to these teams: St. Louis Cardinals, the Miami Marlins, the Cincinnati Reds, the Milwaukee Brewers, the San Francisco Giants, and the Philadelphia Phillies. And you can even throw the New York Mets in there if you would like. But really, I think it comes down to those first 6 teams I mentioned. It's going to be crazy. So really, with the Cardinals, Marlins, Reds, and Brewers, they have two slots to get either the second place in their division or a wild card spot. For the Giants, it's either wild card or bust. So they have to make that wild card spot. They're not going to overtake the Padres, the Dodgers for one of those first 2 spots in the NL West. So currently, as we're sitting here on Tuesday, the standings from 1 to 8 are Dodgers, Braves, Cubs, Padres, Cardinals, Marlins, Reds, and Brewers. You got the Giants and the Phillies currently on the outside looking in, but they're only a half a game back currently of those spots. So a crazy finish here at the end. I wanted you guys to take a look at the standings, take a look at the remaining games they have. Honestly, I think this is a crapshoot. It can go to anybody. I love how chaotic this is going to be, but I want everyone to give their predictions of who makes those final spots in that National League playoff picture. James, lead us off.
Hey, remember when you said the Miami Marlins were going to just be terrible this year and be the worst team in the league? Well, I think they take that second spot in the NL East after the Braves.
I'd take it.
And then hot take over here. I think the entire NL Central makes the playoffs. I think the Reds take the second spot, and I think the Cardinals and the Brewers will actually take that wild card spot. And it's gonna be kind of crazy because for the last 5 games they play each other. I think they're gonna trade those games back to back to back to back, which would put them ahead of the Phillies, who I have kind of close there. But the Phillies play the Rays for the last couple of games, and the Rays are absolutely killing it. So I don't think the Phillies will win that one. But it'll be super weird to see the Cardinals and Brewers play pretty much 8 games against each other if this all happens. But that's those are my predictions for the NL playoffs.
Tradon, who do you got?
It looks like in the East, obviously, I have the Braves and Marlins in the first 2 spots. Central, I have Cubs and Reds. The Dodgers the West is already done, like you said. The wild card is tough. I think I have Cardinals and Phillies. The Giants, as of today, before this game that they're playing, had a 30% chance of making it, down from 44 after their loss last night. I'm keeping an eye on them because my family up north, and it's my girlfriend's family that I'm talking about. They're huge Giants fans. I'm keeping an eye on them. If they win tonight, maybe I could see them making it. But had they won last night, I think I would have had them in the wild card. But I just don't see it. Brewers are close, but I just don't think they'll make it.
Eric, who do you got?
Yeah, that was a mouthful of all those teams you named off. I was like fucking scrambling, looking at all these stats and everything as you're saying it. So I could do team make it in the NL. Is that what you're telling me? Of all those fucking Marlins will be one of them, and I believe the Brewers will be the other one because the Brewers they showed a couple years ago in that series with the Dodgers they got guys that could play. They just got to tough it out. I think they could tough it out and get it and squeeze into a spot. I think the Marlins, I agree with James. We've counted them out all year. They're going to prove us wrong.
Yeah, I think with going back to the Marlins, as I mentioned, probably in like the season preview, I joked that'd be funny if the Marlins made the playoffs because of the shortened season. And here we are. They're currently the 6th seed in the National League, which is fucking crazy. I think I accidentally gave them a TLDR bump. I wasn't doing it on purpose, but I think it was an accident. I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Hey, how come D. Gordon didn't win the home run championship then?
Dude, I don't know. That was weird. Come on, D. Step it up. But interesting for the Marlins, they played the Braves and the Yankees to finish out the season. So that's going to be a really tough schedule for them. I think they have the toughest schedule of these 6 teams. But with that being said, I do think the Marlins will either get that second division spot or a wild card spot. And then I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Reds and the Philadelphia Phillies with those final 2 spots. But dude, it's going to come down the wire. It's going to be a crazy series, a crazy last week here. I'm going to be glued into those standings every single night. Gotta love it. I mean, that's part of the reason why I think baseball wanted to expand playoffs is to create these type of scenarios. And with the shortened season, you got teams like the freaking Miami Marlins sitting there in a playoff spot, and even the Giants, who I think no one expected them to be competitive. Here we are, boys. 1 week left. Next week we'll know for sure who did make the postseason, and I'm really excited about it, boys. Postseason baseball is right around the corner.
Tyler, real quick, ask this question again. Glad that they have the playoff structure the way they do because of this craziness, and do you think it should continue forever?
I think you made a really good point last time we had this conversation about how, one of the biggest reasons why it'll stay is because money. The teams make money in the postseason. I think the owners are going to want it. It's hard for me because I think my biggest thing against it is that it doesn't really reward winning your division like it used to. I think that was a huge thing with baseball. And that was why winning division titles weren't just about bragging rights. It's a legitimate advantage for you. That kind of wipes this out. It really doesn't matter if you win or come in second or make the wild card. It really doesn't matter. Seeding matters, in terms of getting that first series at home. But even with this season, it doesn't matter at all because there's not going to be any fans anyway. And honestly, home field advantage with baseball, I think, has the lowest. It's like the lowest home field advantage of any sport. So it really doesn't matter too much. So I'm still on the fence about it. I'm going to feel it out. Obviously, we're going to have our first experience with it. So I'm open to it. I'm definitely excited about, this National League being the way it is, and having 6 teams battling for 4 spots, I think is super exciting. But in terms of going forward with it long term, I'm still kind of on the fence about it. like I said, let's play the postseason. Maybe I'll change my mind. But yeah, still on the fence about it.
Fair enough.
That's all I got for baseball.
And breaking news, we got a TLDR bump alert. I myself am giving a TLDR bump to the LA Anaheim Angels because currently they are 4 games out of a wild card spot. They are beating the Padres in the bottom of the 9th inning. They just need to fucking finish this game off. They will be 3 games. Oh, fuck. All right, this pop up. Okay. They'll be 3 games out of a wild card spot with 2 games left against the Padres and a series against the LA Buckheaders. TLDR bump for the Angels. They're going to sweep the Dodgers. They're going to squeeze into that last wild card spot, and we're going to bet on this series, Tyler, as long as they beat the Padres to get there.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
So you're telling me there's a chance, and
Oh, wow. Wow. I mean, that's a one hell – that needs to be like the biggest bump in history if that works out for you.
yeah, if it really does. They have to beat the – oh, fuck. There's a guy on base for the Padres, but –
How are you so far ahead?
Did you guys cable?
Yeah, so
Old
that's
school.
all we got this week for baseball. It is winding down, and we will know next week all the playoffs, all the matchups and series. Double play, baby. They already just heard my bump. Double play for the Angels. And when we return, the last segment that Tyler will be coming for Alex will be the NBA playoffs.
All right, Ty.
Yo, everybody, we are back for the last segment. Tradon just took a bite of his strawberry cheesecake, and Tyler is going to hit us with these last 2 series of the Sick League NBA.
All right. Taking over for our boy Alex today. He couldn't make the podcast tonight, so double duty. And we're going to talk about the NBA playoffs. We're down to our final 2 series remaining in the NBA playoffs. We're going to start off in the West. Lakers versus Nuggets. We had game 3 tonight. The Nuggets pulled out a win to make the series 2-1 in favor of the Lakers. Crazy game there. The Lakers were down by 20 points in the 4th quarter. They got it within about 3 points, about 4 minutes left. It looked like the Lakers might pull off an epic comeback, but the Nuggets finished it out there at the end and grabbed that series, that big game 3 win for them. First game, Lakers dominated from start to finish. 126-114 win there in game 1. Game 2, crazy game. Lakers were up late, and Nuggets came back there towards the end. And if you haven't seen it yet, I'm sure you'll have to go see it. Anthony Davis with the buzzer beater there at the end, game-winning 3-pointer. And speaking of Anthony Davis, this guy is shining bright. 37 points in game 1, 31 points in game 2, obviously with that game-winning shot. He called Kobe in the Mamba jerseys. It was awesome. So, James, I want to ask you, Anthony Davis has been one of the best players in basketball for a long time here, but he hasn't really gotten a chance to shine in the playoffs until now, and he's taking every advantage of it. He looks like the best player on that team, if not in the league right now, just overall. How great is it to finally see this guy shine on the biggest stage?
Oh, it's amazing, man. It's long overdue. Like you mentioned before, he's been one of the best for a long time. And it's always nice to get some of the pressure taken off of you, and I think that's why he's shining right now. For the longest time with the Pelicans, it was basically just him. You had Rondo for a little bit, but then there was nobody really else there to help him out offensively. But now you got Braun. I mean, that's kind of a cheat code in and of itself. Those two together make a great tandem, and it allows Anthony Davis to shine. And he's playing in a system that allows him more freedom. It's not just sit in the post like he did his first couple of years in New Orleans. He's out there shooting threes. He made a 3 to win the game. He's having freedom. He's finding his full potential, and he's exploiting it. He's all over the court. He's super athletic, super fast. Jokic is one of the best big men in the league too. He's struggling to defend him right now. Anthony Davis, it's a good sight to see. Thank you very much.
100%. Love seeing this guy. I'm really happy that he's got a chance to, play on the biggest stage after, a long time being there in New Orleans and having a subpar team around him. And he's playing on one of the best teams in basketball right now, and it's awesome. I love watching this guy play.
That buzzer beater was fucking disgusting.
That was unbelievable moment there. I loved how after he sunk it, he yelled Kobe. Thought that was an amazing moment. Gave me chills. Still does. I'm talking about it right now, and I got goosebumps. So you mentioned Anthony Davis playing with LeBron. LeBron had a few choice words about the MVP voting that went down the other day. Giannis Antetokounmpo ended up winning it. LeBron said he was pissed off about the results of the MVP voting, mostly stating that he only got 16 first-place votes compared to Giannis's 65. LeBron James so far in this series, 15 points, 12 assists in Game 1, 26 points and 11 rebounds in Game 2. I believe he dropped 29 tonight in Game 3, somewhere around there, 20-something. Obviously, LeBron James, year in and year out, is one of the best players in basketball, is usually in the conversation for MVP. James, do you think that LeBron is right to be upset over this year's MVP voting?
Yes and no. I mean, he's one of the best players, so of course he'll be upset about it. If he was not upset about it, I'd be concerned. But if you just look at it from a straight number standpoint, Giannis had way better numbers overall. And I mean, like, he had a lesser team around him than LeBron did with the Lakers. His number 2 was Chris Middleton. I mean, Chris Middleton is no slouch, but he's also no AD. Giannis kind of carried that team, and as I mentioned a couple episodes ago, when Giannis isn't on, the Bucks aren't on. When LeBron isn't on, the Lakers still have a chance. So I think that's the biggest problem there. But I respect the fact that LeBron's unhappy with that, because that's just going to fuel even more.
Yeah. It kind of brings back the conversation of what valuable means. That's such a, subjective term. I think people look at it differently. I think some people think it just should go to the best player in the league, statistically, just objectively, who was the best player in basketball on the court. Other people think there's a lot of other things that go with. There's that, and plus the intangibles, leadership, in terms of value, like, does this guy make every player on his team and the overall team better? And I think if you think on that perspective, I think LeBron has a very good gripe with that. I think overall, and the thing is, he's been doing that for so long. Giannis, great player, no disrespect to him. I think he definitely was the best, basketball player this season for sure. But in terms of value, I think it's a little bit closer than the MVP voting, I think, showed. So I think I kind of agree with LeBron on terms of the fact I think he just didn't get enough respect for how many first place votes that he ended up getting. So looking at the series right now, it's 2-1. Obviously, Denver, is here. They came back from 3-1 series deficits in the previous 2 rounds. They looked pretty good in Game 2 as well after that Game 1 loss. So I think this series is going to be a little bit closer, especially after their Game 3 win today. Going into today, the Lakers had a 91% chance of winning this series. I'm sure the numbers are a little bit different now. But I'm sure everyone is still thinking that the Lakers will win this series. It's in terms of how many games. And of course, you got to look at Denver with their track record recently, and this is a tough team to close out. So, James, how far do you see this series going? And, obviously, I'm assuming you think the Lakers will win it. Or am I wrong?
No, you're correct. I think the Lakers are going to win it. They're the favorite in everybody's eyes, pretty much, unless you're from Denver, a diehard Denver fan.
Even the refs.
Even the refs, exactly. Yeah, all the way through, because they should be robots instead. But series go the distance. The Nuggets don't ever quit at all, and they were down 3-1 last series. Sorry, Eric. But the thing is, they have a lot of fight in them. They have a lot of pride. They're not going to back down. They're led by young talent that's just not going to slow down for you. I overall think the Lakers will win in 7, mainly because they do have that leadership and experience that'll help them push past the grind of a long series, especially because the Nuggets just came off a long series. So they're going to be pretty tired. I think the Lakers will outlast them in 7.
For sure. Eric, we were talking about basketball, talking about who's going to talk about each series, and you had mentioned that you have not watched an NBA game since the Clippers were knocked out of the last round by the Denver Nuggets. I'm not going to make you talk about it, but I will throw it to you in case you want to say anything about the series before we move on to the East.
Yeah, you got to give Nuggets credit for what they did. Clippers shot themselves in the foot on their series before the Lakers, but this current series that they're in now, I want to give the Nuggets some credit. One, because I don't want to talk about the Lakers. And the one thing I'll say about the Lakers, Anthony Davis was on the Pelicans, and they had to play the Warriors every year. The Lakers are now the Warriors. They're now the team to beat in the playoffs. They're now the team that's stacked that pretty much everyone is predicting to win it all this year. So yeah, Anthony Davis now when he's paired with LeBron, he's just that much better. Like he's always been that good, and now he's just that much better. But this guy Jamal Murray kind of reminds me a little bit of Steph Curry. If you watch him, he just sets pick and rolls with Jokic and that guy Grant. He just sets pick and rolls until he gets open, and if he has one little split second, he just takes the shot, and he's pretty accurate. He's making most of his shots. Jokic, on the other hand, that guy's a fucking beast. I think he's just as good as Anthony Davis. He's more like a Tim Duncan, though, where he's slower a bit, but he scores every time he ball, gets all the rebounds. He's like a new age Tim Duncan that can shoot threes. Nuggets needed to win that game 2 that they lost on a buzzer beater. Jokic was kind of like a couple steps late to Anthony Davis. And I actually wasn't watching the game at all, and I flipped it over. It was like the intermission of the football game that night, and I flipped it over. It was like literally as he's getting the pass, and I'm like, oh, shit. There's 2 seconds left in the game. He's going to make this. Boom, he fucking swishes it, of course, because he's Anthony Davis. But they needed to win that game. I think if they win that, they could actually push this to 7. I don't know what's gonna happen anymore with this series. I think the Lakers kind of got them now. The Nuggets got their win tonight. I don't really know how much they have left. Coming back from 3-1 in 2 different series is going to take a toll on you.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. You think, if Anthony Davis didn't make that shot, Denver would be up 2-1 right now. We could be having a whole other conversation right now. But we're not. Lakers are up 2-1. Hopefully they continue playing great basketball like they have. They haven't gotten back-to-back defeats yet here in the playoffs, so hopefully that trend continues. So moving on to the East, we got the Boston Celtics versus the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat took the first 2 games of the series, 117-114, 106-101 respectively. Boston came back and won game 3, 117-106. So this is a pretty interesting series. I think a lot of people had picked the Celtics to go this far, but not a lot of people picked the Miami Heat to go this far. I think they're definitely the underdogs left here in the playoffs, and they're playing pretty good basketball against one of the best teams in the East. So I feel like in the first 2 games, the Heat looked like the more complete team. They came back from double-digit second-half deficits in both games. The Celtics have given up double-digit second-half leads 4 times in this playoff so far, which is tied for the NBA lead. So not a good look for them. So Tradon, I want to ask you, do you credit the Heat more for those first 2 games and those comeback wins, or do you blame the Celtics for giving those leads up?
Well, that's an interesting question. Can I say both?
Say whatever you want.
I gotta pick one. No, I gotta pick one. That's the game. I'm gonna blame the Celtics more because I think that giving up that many points twice in a row and then also making it a little shaky in game 3, even though you won it, is concerning. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna tip my hat to the Heat. I mean, that's resiliency. That's battling. But I'm actually gonna blame the Celtics more on this one. They need to play. They need to lock it down. I mean, I'll say it as it relates to hockey, and you'll see it in the playoffs. In the Stanley Cup Final, it's a 60-minute game in hockey. It's the same for basketball. You play 60 minutes. You don't play 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, blah blah blah. No, you play 60 minutes. That's how you finish a game. That's how you finish a series.
I think they play 48 minutes in basketball, actually.
Why I don't watch basketball.
Hashtag
12-minute quarters, buddy.
15-minute quarters. Wait, that's football.
Unless you go to triple overtime or something.
So
anyway, yeah. No, but I get your point. You got to play all 4 quarters of basketball. I got to play from tip off to final buzzer, 100%. I also agree with you. I give more the blame to Boston, mainly because we've seen this trend from them a few times already. And I feel like that's not, you do it once, okay, you credit their team. But the fact this has been a trend, not only the first 2 games of the series, but twice before this, I don't think that's a good trend for them to have. So speaking more of the Celtics, after that Game 2 loss, there was a little bit of a post-game locker room outburst that was reported. Later on that night, head coach Brad Stevens held a late-night meeting with some of the team leaders. Whatever he said during that team meeting and whatever was talked about with the players and whatever adjustments they made, it seemed to work. They came out in Game 3, pretty much dominated the whole game. They outscored Miami in the paint 60-36. So they came out attacking, driving to the hoop. I think they made a huge adjustment there. Gordon Hayward also came back from an injury for the Celtics, which I think is huge for them. His stat line wasn't all that impressive. I think 6 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists, somewhere around there. But I think his presence and I think his leadership is huge for that Boston Celtics team. So as I mentioned, the Heat are still up 2-1. Still a lot of basketball left to be played. Tradon, do you think Boston has flipped a switch here after the game 3? Do you think this is a different team that the Heat are dealing with? Do you think after game 3, do you feel more comfortable with Boston winning this series, or do you still feel a little bit iffy on them?
Yeah, no, I actually feel pretty more confident with the Celtics now. I'll say I think it's going to maybe go to 6-7 game. I think that the Celtics are going to come back and take it over. I think that Miami finally realized that you can't go down double digits in a game and come back every time. That little blow up after game 2, you need that sometimes. I mean, sometimes players in a group or teammates, or I mean, this might even happen, after the 100th episode where things are not going, we're not having a great episode or whatever. We just need to hash it out, argue, get it out. In this case, they're playing shit. They're giving up double-digit leads, and they're not looking good. So let it out on each other. Fire each other up, because you know what, you guys are going to be done if you play like that. If this is a trend, figure it out, and I think that they did. And I credit, and I'm not sure if it was as much the coaches' comments as much as it is the players. Just I think this goes back to what you asked me a couple weeks ago regarding I don't forget which baseball team, but they were in the wrong direction, and I said teams just need to figure it out, and this is exactly that situation. Because game 3 was a completely different story. They drove the ball through Miami's teeth. Did not settle for low percentage perimeter shots. Drove the basket, and that's how they're going to beat this Miami team. And I think they needed that boost, that fight, that tension to be kind of absolved.
For sure. I mean, that's exactly what I did with my pitching wedge the other day, right? Just slammed it. I more or less didn't talk to it. Yeah. I more murdered it and got a new pitching wedge, but it's basically the same idea.
Yeah. And then you started playing better. And then
exactly. I started playing better. Exactly. It's all good. So it's all good. Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you, Tradon. I think that Boston looked a hell of a lot better there in that game 3. I think they're looking like this Boston Celtics team. I think for me, this is their series to lose more than it is Miami's to win. So I think if Boston can look like they did in game 3, I don't see why they can't win this series. So to wrap this all up real quick, I want to go around the horn, and I want each person to give their series predictions for each series and in how many games. James, start with you.
Well, I said Lakers in 7, so I'm going to stick with Lakers in 7. It's been about 6 minutes, and nothing changed. So Lakers in 7. I think the Heat actually take this one.
Wow.
Maybe in 6. Yeah, after watching, I mean, I covered the Bucks and Heat series, and I saw a lot there. And I think if that same Heat team can come back, they're really stacked all the way through, offense and defense. So I think I want to see the Lakers and the Heat play. That'd be really cool to watch.
Nice. Tradon, who do you got?
I'll start with the East. Like I said, I think the Celtics finish up in, let's say, I'll call it 7 games. I think the Heat got one more than them. I'm going to go Nuggets in 7. I like the last 2 games. They lost by only a buzzer beater in game 2. I thought they were going to win that game. I was pretty excited. And then they won game 3, came back. That didn't hurt them. Let's go. Nuggets Celtics in the final.
Hate that pick. Eric, who do you got?
I wish Tradon was going to be correct, but I think it's going to be Lakers in 6. And for the East, I think that the Celtics will come back. They're resilient. There's some dogs. It's going to be Lakers-Celtics finals. Come on, the NBA is just a parody. We know this. Let me get off the soapbox. I think Celtics will win that series in 7, and I think Lakers will win in 6, and they will see each other in the finals, where the Celtics will win in 7 games.
Whoa.
Well, I did agree with you completely to that last point. I'm going to go Lakers in 6, Boston in 7. Lakers take the final in 6 games. But we'll see what happens. So next week, hopefully we'll get a pretty good idea of those last few series. Maybe a couple teams will already have an idea of who's going to be in the final. Other than that, that's all I got for the NBA.
Tyler, thank you so much for letting me know more about the NBA that I wanted to hear so much about.
You're welcome, bud.
But anyways, good episode tonight, guys. Just wanted to thank everybody who continues to listen on to our baffling. We're going to continue to bring the heat for you guys with all the sports going on. The sports, it felt like a month ago, like we were just so erect and rambunctious about all these sports going on at once, and now they're like getting narrowed down to the end. At least baseball playoffs are going to be starting up soon, so we're going to have a lot of in-depth information with that. But thanks to all our listeners, followers. Keep up. The bracket challenge is coming down to the wire for the NHL playoffs. We do one half that will be going to that lucky winner, plus whatever else we said we would give him. James, I don't remember what we said we'd give him, but
It's just a gift card, man. $25
Okay.
Amazon gift card.
yeah. But the TLDR bumps, they come every now and then. You heard them on tonight. Shout us out if you need any more bumps for your teams. We can't do like too many in 1 week. That might be like turning into curses, but I want to thank you guys.
Be selective.
Yeah, we got to be selective and keep listening, guys. We'll keep bringing it for you.